Hi, my name is Ryan Selby, and in this class we're going to talk about two parts of the Flexitrunk with the baby. One, we'll be talking about how to check to make sure that the Flexitrunk is properly balanced, and in the next part we'll talk about positioning the baby and what it should look like. So in part one, when we're talking about how it should look like when it's balanced, when nurses and RTs are doing their checks every hour or when they're doing their cares, there are 5 places that you could visually check to make sure that everything is balanced on the baby. Check number 1, or the first place that you want to look at, is to make sure that the interface is not touching the septum if the baby is on the prongs. You can do that by looking down the side of the nose and making sure you see some prongs sticking out of the nose. You want to have at least a 2 millimeter gap. You can have a greater than 2 millimeter gap, but you don't want to have anything less than that, or it could be touching the septum. If the baby is on the mask, you want to make sure that the mask is totally puffed up and not compressed down like so, and make sure that there's a foam strip located at the top when the baby is on the mask. So that's check number 1. Visual check number 2 is going to be this blue glide bar located right here. Make sure that the blue glide bar is totally centered. What that means is you don't want the interface to look skewed to this side or skewed to that side, but rather totally centered, thereby making sure that there's no pressure one side or the other or a potential leak when you do something like that. The third visual check is just visually make sure that the straps are located down by the jawline of the baby and not over the cheeks and the ears of the baby. Thereby, that will hold everything in place and keep the bonnet from sliding up. The fourth visual check is to ensure that the bonnet is not covering the baby's eyes like that. If you do see the bonnet covering the baby's eyes, don't grab the bonnet here and pull up. Just simply place your finger, hold on to the interface here, and then pull back on the gray block, making sure that it's at the center of the forehead, and that will work out just fine for you. And then the final visual check, the fifth one of the 5, is make sure that when you look at this visually, from here to here, the nasal tubing should be roughly parallel with the floor. This portion here is the circuit that's attached to the nasal tubing. I'm currently using a bubble CPAP, but of course you can use a ventilator circuit when it's on a ventilator. And the same situation will apply for both, that you want the circuit that connects to the interface to lie on some towels or cloth, something soft, so that this is supporting the weight of the heavy temperature probe and the heavy circuits and taking the weight off of the baby's face. And then if you look from this point going down, I have the circuits running down so that the water flows that direction and doesn't flow into the face of the baby. I do run the circuits through the side corner hole and not through the center hole, so that you make sure that you have a lot more wiggle room when you do that. If you are placing the baby in side-lying position or prone position, you'll notice that I do have these towels stacked up like this. Go ahead, and if it's on the sideline, if you take a look, when I adjust the baby, I now have a rise or a lump within the nasal tubing. What will happen is the water will try to evacuate and it'll run back into the face of the baby. So you will have to adjust the towels and make sure that this stays parallel. And again, if the baby goes in the prone position, you'll need to adjust the towels accordingly so that this stays parallel and the water can flow back down. So that is the class concerning positioning and how to check the baby at the 5 visual checkpoints. I have more classes on my YouTube channel, so go ahead and subscribe. Thank you.